Welcome back to Las Vegas. It's Alex Belfield in Sin City at one of the most inventive, creative and brilliant shows ever, Blue Man Group, which is on at the Monte Carlo. And an old friend, Matthew Banks, how are you?
Hi, I'm really good, thank you.
Hey, nice to see you again. And here I am at a new casino with this show, which has been reinvented for Monte Carlo, and you've done a fantastic job. Again, standing ovation at the end of the show. Then again, you have no choice, because by that point you're covered in toilet roll, aren't you?
Yeah, you're a little bruised by all the big balls as well.
This show does have big balls. It has balls from the beginning. Let's start on a creative level. I don't think there's anything like it anywhere in the world. I've said this before. It is so inventive and different, and still, after, 15, 20, 400 years of being on stage, stands above the rest as being so different. Why hasn't somebody nicked your idea?
Well, I think we just have a way of staying ahead of the game. Right now, this show is the latest rendition, the latest thinking of the collective Blue Man Group, and we're further down our own wormhole than we've ever thought we would even go. There's stuff in our show that is truly, literally mind-blowing. We talk about the brains, neurosynapses, and there's insane footage video footage that the Blue Men are like literally engulfed in. They get swallowed up by a screen. They're attached to screens. It is such candy for the eyes. It's insane.
And of course, what's genius about this, there's not a word said in the entire show, really. Well, certainly not by the Blue Men. Anybody can come, whether they speak any language, wherever they're from, they're going to enjoy it just on a visual and audio level. And that's the point, isn't it? We're not meant to understand this. We're meant to just enjoy it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that's a huge reason why we have such a wonderful international fan base. The Blue Man, despite the constant pushing of the envelope for production level technology advances, we always have the character, which is kind of a primal thing. It's like the analog element in amidst all this crazy science. The Blue Man doesn't speak. There's three of them. They're all trying to figure it out at the same time. If anything, the audience is living vicariously through the Blue Men, figuring out what on earth to do for all the people that have suddenly showed up in the theater.
So for anybody who's not seen this show or heard of them, what is a Blue Man? Well, he's a man who doesn't speak. He's from sort of another planet. He's the missing link, is that right?
Yeah, he's kind of a physical conjuring of the collective consciousness. There's a Blue Man in all of us, and when a group of people get into our theater, the Blue Man appear out of the need for him to come. He arrives and is a super curious, super wondrous, has like a superhero quality in that he's on a mission and there's a time crunch and he's trying to figure things out. But he's really sweet and innocent at the same time, so people just fall in love with him right away, and then you're hooked.
Well, I think we both have a great affinity, the Blue Man and myself. I'm ginger, for example, so I know what it's like to be an outcast.
Well, okay. I do too. I'm often bald and blue, so that's pretty weird.
Let's just talk on a theatrical level. How do they do it? Because they are literally covered in something, and it's very authentic. I mean, it's a describe it. Latex. What is it?
Well, I mean, the makeup is very simple. It is grease paint and a bald cap that also covers your ears. But what ends up happening is a huge transformation. You have a complete removal of the cultural mask. So you really do have the essence of somebody's innocence right in front of you. The eyes are the only thing that really pop out. And the eye, it's kind of cheesy to say, but the eyes really become the window to their soul. And it's impossible not to empathize with any kind of problem they're trying to deal with.
And I love how seriously they take it. I was listening to the number one DJ in America, Howard Stern, this week, and he was raving about the show, and he was saying he was most offended because he met one of them backstage at America's Got Talent, and he said they wouldn't speak, they would not talk to him, and he couldn't understand the first person in his entire life who wouldn't adhere to being reverential to Howard Stern. They won't, will they? I mean, I just met one backstage. They keep character. It's fascinating.
Yeah, they don't speak. There's too much going on inside of the Blue Man to even bother with words. As soon as they say a single word, they're kind of already in the past. That's a great kind of litmus test into the what makes a Blue Man tick. I think he doesn't speak because he's so present.
There's a curiosity, isn't there? That they want to know. They just need to get that insight into what to do next.
Yeah, we go out into the audience, and we're trying to find somebody who could represent the audience. So yet another person. We're shedding a little light and showing like this person does have a blue man in them too. Depending on what we do, we hang a guy up by an auto assembly line robot, and we bring a girl, a lady up on stage, and all these kind of awkward moments bring out the humanity. I mean, Blue Man is just a really pure human.
And if you don't mind me saying, I mean, the Blue Men are amazing, but you could watch this show with your eyes shut, if you know what I mean, because there is a soundtrack through it with the music and the drums. And I said to you earlier, the sound system in that theatre is probably the best I've ever heard in the world. It's so moving and compelling. I mean, I love a drum. You can't beat them.
Oh!
Wow.
Oh, man, we need a badoom sound in there.
Can I add one now?
Yeah, here we go. Cue. Our sound system is also mind-blowing. But yet again, there's the paradox or the juxtaposition of having this cutting-edge technology, and then all of a sudden the Blue Men play music, and what do they play? PVC tubes. And so you have an electric guitar going through a channel of multiple effects, and 3 drummers, strobe lights, craziness. Your chair is shaking, your bone marrow is vibrating, and the Blue Man is kind of in his pure primal place with PVC tubes joining in.
The technology involved in this show is magnificent. I think beyond any other I've seen. There's a lot to go wrong, isn't there? Because you're relying on sound and lighting and TVs and huge, great big screens to all sync together to make this as compelling and moving as it is, because it never stops. There are no, unlike some other shows, there aren't sort of 10-minute gaps in between. It is relentless. It goes from scene to scene to scene.
Yeah. When we were loading in, I was speaking with our lighting board operator, who in this case is the guy who brings everything together. Video, lights, everything is one, and it all comes down to his board. And he was saying there's a lighting convention that happened already, and everybody in the lighting world was talking about Blue Man Group because the show is quadruple the size of the biggest show anyone else has done in a theater setting. And so he was really proud to be a part of it. And I've been excited to give that little statistic to people, because it is not, there's nothing like it out there.
It's totally off the scale. But you don't just use lights within the theatre. You use lights within the Blue Men.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the Blue Men, they wear these backpack, we call them neuronulums.
I beg your pardon?
Neuronulums.
Nice to meet you too.
Gesundheit. And they are a lighting apparatus in themselves. We wear these video suits now. We call them hex suits because the video tiles are hexagonic. But yeah, the Blue Men are engulfed in video.
It's amazing that this didn't just become a fad, and it could have just been off Broadway, which is where it started and in fact where it still is. It's gone strength to strength, and of course Vegas takes everything and moves it 100% bigger and better. Is it thrilling to still being able to keep tweaking and tweaking? You've been with this show, I don't know, 40, 50 years, something like that, and it just gets bigger and bigger and better. Your imagination almost has no limits.
That's true. I remember when I first started, it was 13 years ago. And they were...
Sorry, not 50, 60 years ago.
40, 50 years ago. That's when I started. The company had already been going, and the founders of the company were... I watched a video of them being interviewed on a television show like Good Morning America or something. And this was in the beginning. They were just like street performers, and somehow they got to get on TV, and they did a little performance, and the hostess of the show, she said... well, don't quit your day job, because she just didn't get it.
Wow.
But meanwhile, the rest of the planet is getting it and loving it.
Do you know, I think the Blue Men Group would love that, though, wouldn't they? The Blue Men themselves, not to be got by some toffee-nosed journalist, probably would make them happy.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of really the essential point of the show, is to get you thinking.
And of course, this show crescendos, it gets louder and louder and louder, literally. And then by the end, we are covered in balls.
We're covered in balls. Balls with strobe lights inside.
Yeah, I mean, even that's clever. I mean, any other show would have balls that drop. Okay, balls that drop, fine. And then these change colour. I mean, there isn't a thing you haven't thought about. Again, how do you do that? Where do you think of this stuff? Because it is insane. Nobody else has thought of it. You do realise you're slightly bonkers.
Yeah, I guess so. But we like being bonkers. The balls. That's one of the climactic moments of the show. I don't want to give it away, but I don't think I could. I couldn't explain what it's actually like to be there with the 10-foot wide balls bouncing around. And they're not just bouncing, they're partly filled with helium, so they're just floating magically, majestically. And it's like being a kid. When we were kids, like little, balls were big. You know, you get a beach ball and it's huge. It's maybe the size of your chest. And that's what these balls are like, but they're actually even bigger compared to your own body.
Exactly. Enough about my balls.
Yeah.
And the guys in the audience do go back to being kids. I mean, they become very competitive to the point where they're even knocking their drinks over.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's true. It becomes a big mess.
I don't want to make this about me, but this nearly didn't happen, did it?
Yeah, I know. It did almost. Your poor satchel got covered in somebody's margarita.
But it's my own fault. I knew what was coming. I knew what was going to happen. And people lose their minds in this show. This is not sit down and be performed at. It's sit down and be performed with.
Mm-hmm. Very true. It's a very participatory show.
And by the way, I hate that. I'm glad they never pick on me and tell them, because if they do, I won't take part. I paid to watch the show. Well, I haven't paid because you gave me a free ticket. But had I have paid, I would not take part unless you're going to pay me a fee.
Well, we're really careful, you know, with people. We when we do go through the audience, the people who are truly terrified, we don't pick on them.
Are they like me? They just don't look at you. Is that the thing? I don't have to look at you. How do I make you know I don't want to be picked?
Yeah, you could not either. That goes both ways. You could not look at us, or if we don't want to pick you, or there's people we don't pick because they're way too excited. They have no shyness quality in them at all, and and that happens sometimes. We bring them up on stage and then they take over, and then we have to deal with that, and that's kind of interesting for the theater. It's live theater, so anything can happen and anything does.
And that's what helps this show as well. The edge. You don't know what's going to happen next, and if you're stupid enough to pick someone from the public, you get what you deserve, especially in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a written show. The show is unraveling in real time, and everyone is a part of the unraveling. Without them, it wouldn't.
And congratulations as well to your musicians, as well as the three Blue Men. There are a team of incredible percussionists who just bring this show to life. And again, the way it's produced audio-wise and the sound system, I mean, it is incredibly moving. I've never heard bass like it. And I asked you a serious question earlier. Is there a point where that theatre could just explode or implode one day? Because it literally rocks. I mean, I know this is an old showbiz saying, we're going to rock the place. But I mean, you can feel the chairs moving.
Yeah. The ground trembles during our show.
Do you have to fill in a health and safety form or something for that?
No, but when we were loading in, we were running music over and over and over, and literally I would get nauseous sometimes because your body is totally shaking. Your eyeballs shake. It's hard to see at some points in the show because of the sound waves.
Hey, listen, I love this show. Blue Man Group is on here at Monte Carlo, and it really is something very different. And thank God Las Vegas keeps this show here, because it can become sanitized, it can become nice. And after all, this is Sin City. It is a place that's meant to sort of embrace creative people and creative acts and unique acts as well. And there's nothing more unique than this show, Blue Man Group.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Matthew, good to see you again. And next time, please don't cover me in someone else's beer or I'll sue you.
I won't. Okay, yeah, right.
Hey, listen, nice to see you again. Matthew Banks, a big star, one of the geniuses behind Blue Man Group, which goes from strength to strength. And you can see it how many times a week? 13, 14 times?
We do 14 shows a week, yeah.
Hey, unbelievable. I mean, nowhere else in the world would you be asked to do this many shows.
No, but there's 8 guys actually that rotate through. And so the trios switch up of Blue Men, and so you never know what you're going to get.
Thank you for not picking me. Matthew Banks, good to talk to you again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.